Let's go to Alabama at Wisconsin, and we can kind of look through the lens of the first 2 weeks for this game. I don't know if Wisconsin has the pieces to match up at the places they need to match up in this matchup to keep the game close, but they are at home. Alabama, certainly out whatever Alex Golish knows about Alabama. He was great at Tennessee and was able to create offense. I do think Brown, the quarterback at South Florida, is going to be a very, very good player. And so I think but clearly he sees something in Alabama. They played well last year. They played well this year. He beat him when he was at Tennessee. Do you think Wisconsin sees what Golish has done at South Florida to Alabama and can implement some of those same things? Tyler Van Dyke, good running game. I don't. They got some speedy receivers at Wisconsin that I think they need to target the football to. Looking through the lens of the South Florida game, again, Alabama scored 28 points in the fourth quarter and kind of pulled away. Still running the ball very well. Milroe still very effective. Does Wisconsin have the pieces in your mind to match up here?
It's tough to see it, honestly. I think, first of all, watching the South Florida Alabama game, I was reminded of last year's South Florida Alabama game, and I'm sitting there wondering, does South Florida just have Alabama figured out? Because I know it's a different year, a different coaching staff, different things, but I mean, the score was not indicative of how well South Florida played in that game. And they have a very, athletic, very quick defensive front. I think for Wisconsin, the one thing that may give you some optimism if you're Wisconsin is if you can protect Van Dyke, and they've got a pretty solid offensive line. Alabama's defensive backs are young, they're transfers, a little bit of inexperience back there. Maybe you can hit some big plays. They've had some guys open. Byron Brown missed a couple throws in there, and I think Western Kentucky was able to get a couple guys open too. So there are opportunities, I think, in the secondary. I think for Alabama, the big question is going to be, and I think this is kind of, it goes back to the South Florida question, which is how much of that was South Florida has a pretty good beat on Alabama, and the other question is offensive line wise, they need to get Caden Proctor back because it's pretty obvious that their offensive line is all out of sorts, and we've seen that through the first 2 weeks of the season. So it's what's real and what's not in that Alabama offensive sluggishness. A lot of it was penalties and mistakes. If they can get Caden Proctor back, get the right five in there, I think this offense will be pretty solid. And I think the one concern you would have if you're Wisconsin's defense is that defensive line. They lost one of their starters in the preseason, maybe a little bit vulnerable to the run. Western Michigan did some good things there. So, yeah, I think if I'm Alabama, I'm wondering how much of this was South Florida. I think if you're Wisconsin, do you have the weapons? And they certainly have the weapons at receiver, but is Van Dyke going to be able to consistently do it enough against this defense? I think that's my big question on this matchup.
Yeah, I think they need to feed Pauling the football. Of course, he's a really dependable
Yeah.
player, but also the freshman Kekehuna. Is that how you say his name? The guy who returns
Yeah.
kicks. Like that guy is real speedy, man. Like Wisconsin doesn't have a lot of speedy guys in space normally, and it looks like they've got a couple of them this year. They need to get those guys the football. And ultimately, the thing I don't trust is Tyler Van Dyke here. And it's not fair to put him inside the context of a Wisconsin offense and be like, I don't trust any Wisconsin offense to throw the football well. And I certainly don't trust Tyler Van Dyke. You put them together, and I have major concerns. And then you look at Alabama and you go, well, I mean, look, the one thing they've done pretty well is run the football. Like they take shots and they run the football, and I don't see how Wisconsin has the pieces. They've got an elite number one corner, right? Wisconsin can match up with one of those with one of those receivers. There's a lot. Here's what I see with Alabama, and I don't know what you think about this because I don't see it. I still think a very good team, but I don't know who else belongs at number 3, 4, or 5 right now. Like maybe 4 or 5 is just up for debate because Ole Miss hasn't played anybody.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of really talented pieces for Alabama: outside linebackers, running backs, receivers that aren't even household names yet that are going to be very good players by the end of by next month. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's hard. I can't disagree with that. I think the game, this timing of this game is interesting because, like, let's just say Alabama gets healthy on the offensive line. They get this game off week, Georgia. That's a pretty telling stretch here for for Kalen DeBoer in his first season. Go back to Wisconsin. Tyler Van Dyke's at the bottom of the Big Ten in yards per attempt at 6.4, and they're also giving up just over 120 rushing yards as well. And you look at their opponent's face, you could easily see how Alabama can take advantage of that. So I think just on paper, Alabama's pass rush, like you mentioned, plus that Alabama rushing attack, there's a couple advantages there on paper that this team should be able to take advantage of. Plus, There's opportunity here once they start to get these pieces healthy and get everybody acclimated. This team has a lot of room to grow during the season.
Yeah, Lawson and Rousseau and some of the other guys on the second at linebacker are going to be very good. Jefferson and Campbell, and then look, the receiving core for Alabama I think is going to be better than people realize as well. So I think Wisconsin's at home. They can bow up and they can play a physical game, and if that works and that happens, maybe they keep it close. But I don't know. I think Alabama. I don't think they have the right pieces in the right places to beat this Alabama team. But Madtown is going to be great, and the weather should be awesome. It is a great place to go to a game, so I recommend anybody go check it out and go to State Street and float through that brat haze. It's a wonderful place to be. Win or lose, it's a wonderful place to be. That is for sure.